Before I start this video, I just want to say that I have released my own film. It's a 55-minute long movie I made on my own budget with a group of friends, and we made it in a very small way, very small location, so it's not like a big production or anything like that, but the link is on the screen right now, it will be in the description, and it'll be at the end of the video. Please go check it out. So I just saw Rebel Moon, the brand new film from amazing director Zack Snyder, a guy who has a cult following like I've never seen before in Hollywood. It stars Sofia Boutella and Anthony Hopkins, and if you haven't seen anything that Zack Snyder's done, this is essentially a Zack Snyder Star Wars movie. That's what this movie is. Now, if you don't know the story of Rebel Moon, so essentially Zack Snyder years and years ago had wrote a script or a story treatment for his version of Star Wars, a Star Wars movie that he wanted to make, and he had pitched it to Lucasfilm before they were acquired by Disney, and over the course of a few years, the project ended up dying. They did not pick it up, and they did not want to make it. So now today, as Zack Snyder is one of the biggest names in the industry, Netflix has decided to say, hey, Zack Snyder, why don't you make that Star Wars movie, and just take everything that's Star Wars in it out of it and, you know, just do something new. And now we have Rebel Moon, and it's the first part of what I think is a two-part, maybe a three-part series. I know the second movie comes out in a few months, so there's not that much long of a wait, but this is the part one. And I'm gonna be honest, this just did not really work for me, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. And it's a movie I was really looking forward to. I am a massive Zack Snyder fan. I think he's one of my favorite directors. His visual style, I think, is really something that I dig personally. I also love his writing and the way he tells kind of these dark melodramatic stories that are a little bit ridiculous, but just it's my style of stuff. I love all of his DC stuff he did. I really love Watchmen. It's just this movie I feel like was not what I was expecting it to be. And it's because I kind of went into this movie hoping that it would be 300 in space. This big, you know, battle movie, this war movie with politics and all this stuff and graphic fighting and all this amazing stuff that you get from Zack Snyder movies, but set in a space fantasy type setting. That was what I was kind of hoping for. But instead, we really just get a retread on a lot of stuff that we've seen before, specifically, yeah, of course, Star Wars, and specifically Rogue One. This movie kind of felt almost like a copy of Rogue One, and I don't know if Disney had maybe taken inspiration from the original story and script that he had pitched to Lucasfilm all those years ago, and that they had decided to make Rogue One based off his ideas. Maybe that's what happened, maybe it's not, but this film is just very, very similar to that, in my opinion. And there's a lot here that I just did not particularly love. First off, the PG-13 rating, and I know there's an R-rated 3-hour cut that's coming, but why does there have to be a Snyder cut for a movie that Zack Snyder had full creative control over? There should just be one cut. I don't understand why we have a crappy cut and then he's off promoting the movie saying, I'll wait till I can release my full cut of the movie. It's going to be so much better. I don't get it. I get that they're probably just trying to riff on the Snyder cut thing, but it's like, you have control of the movie now. Just release the main cut and because I don't really have any interest in watching that cut at the moment. But the PG-13 rating on this movie definitely hurts it. There's a lot of stuff in here that clearly there's a graphic version of, but the camera cuts away and the edit is just, you know, trying to pan away from the violence, and it kind of sucks. I will say the world that Zack Snyder introduces here is pretty cool, and the politics and the Game of Thrones-esque stuff here is great, because what I love about Star Wars is that Game of Thrones fighting for power, the politics of it mixed in with the very small character work. That's what really works about it. It's why the sequels didn't work, because it decided to just kind of remove all of that. And Zack Snyder's definitely leaning into that a lot here. There's definitely a lot of political aspects here. There's definitely stuff about kingdoms and kings and you know, rebels and all the stuff that you love in Star Wars, or in something like Dune, which inspired Star Wars. And the world here, from the world building that they do, is really cool and interesting, although a lot of the world building is done in a really poor way. It's done in exposition dumps where two characters sit and you get 10 minutes of flashbacks and exposition dumps, and that's just not exactly the way that it should be done. I think the opening of this movie, the first 20 minutes, is definitely the best part. It's where the movie peaks, where it's just kind of like this small little farming village, and the big, gigantic, terrifying empire comes in, and there's a conflict that arises, and all of that stuff was done really, really well, and I liked the way the world looked. I thought the CGI looked the best here. There were some good character moments with the robot that Anthony Hopkins plays. Like, I really enjoyed all of that, and the fight that we got there was like the best fight of the movie. Everything that happened after that was just so, like, cookie cutter and just stuff that I could not find interest in, because a lot of the CGI wasn't great. I wasn't connecting really with any of the characters. I do appreciate the fact that a lot of this cast are unknown actors. I feel like if this cast was stuffed to the brim with actors that everybody knows, it would have also taken away from the movie. But at the same time, the characters are just not given enough to really connect with, which is weird because the entire point of splitting a two-part, splitting this into two parts was so the first one can introduce the characters, and it just still doesn't work. And that's another thing about this movie, knowing that it's a part one, it definitely plays out with the worst tropes that part ones of movies actually usually have, like stuff like the Deathly Hallows Part 1, where the movie feels like half a movie. It doesn't feel like a full movie, like Infinity War felt, when it came to Infinity War and then Endgame. Infinity War felt like a complete movie that clearly left a path to a second movie. This one feels like half a movie. It feels like it got slashed right in the middle, and I have a feeling, and I don't know for sure, but this was probably intended to be one movie, and it just the cut got way too long, so they split it in half. I am intrigued by the ending. I am excited to see where this goes. I do think part 2 is going to be a lot better than this. I also think the cast does a really good job of what they're given. I think the sound design and the music is amazing, which is what can be expected from Zack Snyder stuff. The sound design is very punchy. I like the design of the ships and the set pieces and the outfits. I love how, like, the space Nazis, essentially they're pretty much the Empire from Star Wars, which is another, I'll get into it in a second, but they really look like space Nazis here, which I think is cool. And the performance from all the bad guys is good, if not a little generic, but pretty good. But yet again, going back to the Star Wars thing, I know that at one point this was intended to be a Star Wars movie, but I just don't understand making it so closely related to the Star Wars universe. I feel like this movie needed its own identity, and it fails to deliver that while also failing to tell an incredibly compelling story and compelling tale within the world that it has created. So on that front, it kind of fails both ways, which made it not as enjoyable of a watch experience as I wish it was. They kind of pitch this movie as a more mature Star Wars. It's a rated R Star Wars, but then the movie comes out and it's not rated R, and it's just kind of a worse version of Rogue One. And like I go back to, I wish it was 300 in space. That's what I was wishing for. Just a big battle movie with graphic violence, the classic Zack Snyder visual style in a space, galactic empire setting. That would have been dope, and maybe we'll get that in the sequel, but I just did not feel it here. So because of that, I'm gonna have to give Rebel Moon a 2 out of 5. It just wasn't really my thing, if I'm gonna be honest. That's the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more. Please click the video on your screen right now, because it is my movie, so go check it out and let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the next one.